ochoro tu singa kia kunia poti ya ni chỉ kia li ni chờ lo sống ở cái lún đa lún giò sợ được cứ sợ sa thiên nó ochoro na nhớ trong chia là Crosse ít trong nghệ sĩ cứ tin nên cha tướng chạy lùa đó là cho phong như sợ đời nếu nó do ý nếu trong bé sợ đời tôi còn ý lưu dê lưu giò tỏ dài lưu trong chia cú lúm bê hù oan câu nữ mong sành va yo gì mong sành vư ôn đây nó cứ sao ô chôn đông đầu cho lũ con hồng mong sợ chế theo ô lử vũ trâu hãy nên mong nhóm họ lũ giò là Crosse nó lũ con họ mua lũ họ pia giải mua là ba tiết sáng ca bé hãy nên mong kế nó cá nhỏ rong chân dê thiết và mình nên lũ ra lũ giò nên chỉ tia li nên ngồi xế đỡ cô vũ trâu lũ giò là Crosse nó vì lý nó bé sợ là thiết lý tàu lò xí sầu ok lũ lì tiền nó lò sáng và thiết giải tỏ lũ xong chia cú thọ bé sợ là bố thế cha số luôn gì đó sáng và cho bé lũ giò là Crosse cộng hồng mong trong nó lũ cộng hồng mong mua lũ họ pia thiết giải mua sát cho tướng giải lùa cho kể cỡ chú cỡ chi có một tàu đế thiết sĩ tàu là cho chú ý thiết kể cỡ lọ bá bê lũ dê cho vì lý nó cứ cho lũ hai nú nó cứ yếu hai cho tướng giải lùa nên cho ô nhiều ô gì gà xía thiết tàu hai tiền bé cho tướng giải lùa tiền nó cho cho lũ ăn kỹ là xứ vì lý nó cứ yếu lòng lũ cứ yếu mù hai lũ ăn kỹ tàu mù nên cho ô nhiều ô gì ô xiên để giả lũ chỉ bút trâu cũ sau thầu cơ cũ mà lý đó cá lò hai lũ mong sau cũ chọn chia lũ Happy Hmong New Year La Crosse. It's good to be back in my hometown. I am honored to be asked to be this year's keynote speaker. When the board members asked me to be this year's keynote speaker, I paused for a long time. I asked myself, am I worthy of giving a speech to today's youth and the greater La Crosse community? How many of you have ever found yourself in a similar situation where you questioned and wondered about your worth? Whether it's to participate in a family event, to decide whether to continue on and pursue higher education, or to be chosen for a job. To today's youth and young adults, whether you are still in grade school, meandering your way through college, or seeking that high-paid job, you are worth it. When you believe in your own worth, the people around you and the situations you find yourself in will follow you. The Hmong New Year is a magical time. Growing up in a large Hmong family in La Crosse meant that the New Year was celebrated in many parts with lots of people. In my family, preparation for the New Year started as early as September. This is when my mom wrapped up her garden and harvested all the Hmong pumpkins and squash to take home. She would later then use them as part of the family meal and the spiritual offering to the ancestors. I am the youngest child in my family, and my task during this magical time was to help clean around the house, while my older siblings helped my parents take down the old year spirits so that my dad can call in the new year spirit to protect the home. The most anticipated part of the new year was the lighting of the incense and staying up all night to welcome the new year. My parents taught me that the longer you stay up to watch the incense burn, the more opportunities you had to catch all the good luck and good spirits that came around this magical time. Early the next morning, our family would gather at my parents' home for the tradition of Bei Chia. In a traditional Hmong home, Bei Chia looks something like this. The dining room table is filled with cooked chicken, boiled eggs, sweets, and beverages. The elders sit at the dining table while the children sit or stand on the opposite side of the table. The elderly head of household offers a blessing to the children and gives them a drink to toast to the new year and accept the well wishes of the elder. The drink represents the good luck and fortune that is to come with the new year. Next, the children select a piece of chicken, a boiled egg, or a sweet to then give to the elders. Now, it is time for the children to thank the elders for their guidance and wisdom, bless them a long life full of happiness and longevity, and ask them to look over us as our protector and savior. In my family, it is tradition for the males to receive the blessings first. As a female and as the youngest in my family, I was always last. However, being last never deterred me from questioning my worth or my part in this family tradition. In fact, it was the one thing that motivated me to be curious, attentive, and wanting to know more so that I can do more. The Hmong New Year is a time of reflection, setting goals, and planning for a better tomorrow. And this is how I continue to see the La Crosse Hmong community, its youth, and young adults. Each year, the community comes together to plan for the celebration of the new year. Each clan plans how they will strengthen their families and together lift each other up through traditions and celebrations, big and small. Each family gathers around the kitchen to cook a delicious meal to be shared with not just the immediate family, but the extended family. And as a larger community, you come together to celebrate the excitement of the old year and welcome the promises of the new year. This is what makes this community, in all its beauty, Hmong. We come together to support one another because together we are stronger and more blessed. Growing up bilingual and bicultural here in America is one of the most powerful aspects of being Hmong. The history of the Hmong people reflects transitions of livelihood from one country to another. Yet, despite not having a country to call our own, it is our language and our culture that we pridefully hang on to and take with us wherever we go. It is our language and our culture that identifies who we are. It is our language and our culture that has adapted over time, yet survived through war and loss. In defiance of oppression, we use our language and our culture to stand tall. In rebuilding our livelihoods, we maintain our language and our culture and pass it down to our children. In service of thriving, it is our language and our culture that keeps us rooted in who we are. Being bilingual and bicultural is one of the most powerful tools you will have. And I strongly encourage us to hang on to this tool that our parents, elders, and ancestors have passed on to us one generation after another, and use it to anchor ourselves in our identity. Growing up in this country, you can be Hmong and you can be American too. Do not ever let anyone tell you you have to choose one over the other. Do not fool yourself to think you have to choose one over the other. How you embrace your identity is up to you, and no one can take that power away from you. Take a look around the communities you are a part of. From your classroom, to your school, to your job, or the organization that you identify with. You will find that there are people out there who are also embracing their cultural identities and making meaning of what it means to show up as their authentic selves in today's America. If you were to ask me back in 1995 what it means to be American, you might hear words like a melting pot to describe the American culture then. What do you imagine when you hear the word melting pot? Do you see ingredients being added to the pot and it melts away into a new form? We've come a long ways since the melting pot days. You no longer have to let go of your cultural truths and ethnic ways in order to melt into what it means to be American. Now, you can show up proudly as who you are, authentically Hmong, and contribute to a tapestry of today's America. Proudly wear your traditional Hmong clothes and tell your people's story of how textile and embroidery transforms and shows off who you are as Hmong. Proudly speak your home language of Hmong so that you can be the link and understand how knowledge and skills are passed down one generation after another through storytelling. Proudly lean into what you know and don't know yet about your family and your culture so that you can ask your parents questions to better understand your people's history and the impacts on its present and its future. You are a part of a tapestry of today's America, and in this tapestry, you are expected to be uniquely you. Each part of the tapestry has its own beauty, texture, and color, and it is in this individual identity that is needed to contribute to the overall aesthetic of the final product. Show up as your authentic selves and be proud of who you are. Our larger community today is so much richer and blessed because of the multicultural identities that can be represented and each proudly standing for who they are, yet connected through the common experience of what it means and looks like to be American. To today's parents, share your story. Share your parents' stories. Share your family stories with your children. You are the link to understanding the past and connecting it to the future. The Hmong people's history and culture has been passed down from one generation to another, orally, through storytelling and communication. With opportunities to create a better future for yourself and your children comes the responsibility to ensure that the Hmong language and culture lives on and thrives through the values and lessons you teach your children. My dad was a great storyteller. As children, we would sit around the living room and listen while he tells his stories. If they were folk tales, they always had a lesson to be learned. He always made sure that we understood the moral of the story and can one day apply it to our life choices. If the stories were about our family's journey escaping persecution during the Vietnam War, then my dad made sure that we understood the tough decisions that were made, the longing to go back to Laos, and the sacrifices that took place so that us children can have a better opportunity to be successful. It was through stories that were shared that encouraged the children in my family to continue to stay curious about who we are as Hmong people and eager to learn about our family's interconnectedness to others that went through the same journey. The impact of storytelling is profound. It gives you imagery, as if you were right there, walking through the thick jungles of Laos with your parents, It gives you perspective and an understanding that our history is not one built by privilege and access to riches. It gives you motivation so that you can build a better future for today's generation and the ones to follow. It gives you purpose and the understanding of holding on to your identity as a Hmong person and as a Hmong community. Parents, through the stories you share, you have the opportunity to teach your children the values and character traits you want to instill in them. As an educator working closely with today's children, I've learned that people are judged by the quality of their work and their character. How a person perseveres through a task or challenge will build their character. The way you present yourself, take on challenges, collaborate with others, hold yourself accountable. These are all character traits that are highly sought after and valued in a person. Parents, you are your child's first teacher, and what an incredible power you have to teach and mold your child into a contributing member of today's society. Continue to show your child what courage looks like, praise their efforts, and model grit. These are the strongest traits you can instill in your child, because we know that life experiences will throw curveballs and have setbacks. Let go of preparing a perfect path for your child by fixing things for them, intervening, and only praising results. When you do this, you rob your child of their opportunity to make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and grow into a stronger version of themselves. Be okay with letting your child make mistakes and fail. Because they have you as their safety net, you can always guide them in reflecting on their choices and making decisions that will impact the outcomes they are looking for. To the youth and young adults today, if I can share what I have learned in the last 40 years of being a Hmong woman, raised by a traditional Hmong family, and growing up bilingual and bicultural, it is this. Be curious and actively discover yourself so that you can continuously learn. Stand strong for what you believe in, and don't be afraid to question the status quo. Mistakes and setbacks are inevitable. Embrace it. And be humble. You are the architect of your life story. Whether you are still in grade school or this is your senior year in high school and you're making life choices about what to do after you graduate, or you're in college and you are not sure if higher education is your path right now, or you're working a full-time job and thinking about making a life change, whether you are at wherever you are at in your journey, embrace being curious. Curiosity about yourself, your interests and skills, your passion will lead you through a continuous path of actively discovering who you are and who you want to become. Life is not a straight trajectory, and there is no blueprint that tells you the right path to take. There is not a beginning and an end to learning. When you stay curious, you give yourself permission to continue to learn and grow. Continuous learning keeps you informed, challenges your understanding of things, and helps you create a well-rounded view on topics that matter to you. Getting an education is an important stepping stone in life. Without a proper degree or training, it will become more difficult to find a career that you enjoy and are passionate about. To learn and to be educated is the ticket out of generational poverty. And even after you graduate from school, I encourage you to think about ways in which you can keep learning so that you can continue to actively discover yourself. At At 40, I am still actively discovering myself. Even after I've completed a traditional experience of schooling, I continue to wonder about topics that intrigue me. For example, what drives people and relationships? How are the current challenges we face interconnected with one another? Is Hello Kitty a cat? Why is papaya salad so addicting? And how will my vote count this November? Through my curiosities, I found myself wanting to go back to school or to work towards getting a certification in a skill or wanting to start an adventure in business. What are you curious about? What ignites you? What have you discovered about yourself now after you've planted a seed of thought in yourself a year ago? When you are actively discovering yourself, you'll come across issues that compel you, questions your beliefs, challenges your understanding, or makes you feel different from the norm. Through your learning, find the courage to stand strong for what you believe in, and don't be afraid to question the status quo. Think about it. Some of the most iconic people we know became famous not because they followed the rules and did exactly as they were told. No. They became famous because they did not hold themselves back to fit into social and cultural norms that did not define them. They broke barriers through their actions, their words, their ability to lead and collaborate with others. They forged their own path as pioneers in their field. If they were not invited to have a seat at the table, they found their own ways to create their own table, invited people to sit with them. Take a look at our own Hmong community. From Ga Yin-hyung, who became the first Hmong woman to hold an administrative position as a school principal in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, to Gajua Christy Yang, who became the first Hmong American judge in the country and the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to Sunisa Lee, who became the first Asian American woman to represent the United States in the field of women's gymnastics at the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, Japan. Behind every iconic person is a story of bravery, commitment, sacrifice, and the belief in oneself, regardless of who you are. Where you start in the lineup, the resources you have, or the barriers in the way. You can overcome any obstacle by standing strong for what you believe in and challenging the status quo. What's more, when you continue your journey of learning and actively discovering who you are, you will have setbacks and you will make mistakes. I encourage us to normalize mistakes and setbacks and create healthy ways in which we encourage each other and support one another. When we know that we will not be scrutinized for making a mistake, it can open up opportunities for individuals to take more risks and land somewhere among their hopes and dreams. Mistakes and setbacks build us, and it builds our character. And when you get to the top, stay humble. Remember your roots and where you came from. Remember the stories your parents and grandparents shared with you. Remember the lessons learned from a bloody history that displaced your people. Your sense of humbleness grounds you and keeps you hungry and eager to do your best, be your best, and give your best to your family, your community, and the larger society around you. We gather in a common place today to bask in the festivities and excitement of the Hmong New Year. The New Year brings a celebration of accomplishments, renewed purpose, and hope for the future. Through traditional and modern day arts, to camaraderie and sportsmanship while competing in a sport, or to the joy of sharing a meal together. The Hmong New Year is a magical time of the year. My hat is falling off. My fellow Hmong people, whether you are a youth, young adult, or parent, what hopes and dreams will you hang on to? Continue to work towards, or create new as you bring in the new year? How will you use your skills and time to contribute to your family and your community? What stories will you share? What part of your identity will you embrace differently or more of? Before my time talking with you ends this morning, I leave you with this pahua, in which I will recite in Hmong, so that we can appreciate the beauty and power of our own language and culture. Tờ nó mu yo lu pahua, hai chùa chùa trâu tún chai lùa, ý xiong của Hmong nó bế châu, sa xiong lâu chai to xiong chia, nia chỉ phía tún chai na chong, tua xí gong thua chun thua chi, Hmong thia li mo kế chùa lù, bế chùa tún dây lia mo chia, Hmong lú xía nhỏ cả lìm đi, nia chím li hai trâu tún chai, cũng mong dài nó khá nhỏ rộng, thia li đông cỡ chu cỡ chi, lô thia li bá của bế Hmong, có mua chống chỉ ta chỉ cơ, Hmong sợ đờ mua công mua bế thiên dây đờ chậu chua lô, sĩ tư của chớ đờ chớ dầu, dọn rộng cho nia chỉ xem chi, Hmong thia li, chỗ mua kế và mênh mù lờ xứ o, ý chồng cứ tin anh cho Hmong sợ đờ. Xong lô ta, xong xía tờ tua, cú yo nê ý tu chai, ý tu nhá, ý tu mò, ý tu vĩnh dầu. Cú nia thiết sĩ yêu cú yo, nọ sự chua bó, Hmong sành ba. Cú nia thiết sĩ chế nê ngô cú mù yo yo, giả xá tông khứ Hmong sành vư. Cú tuôn cho chớ nê lú rô, cho kế nọ chia bế yo, sa lú xong lô, giải tỏ lú xong chia. Cú chỉ mua đã trình đầu gà tô cú trâu nê, cú chua mua cú cho lũ khóa, tô hải chớ nê xứ. Thọ có bế hải nê Hmong, chỗ mua kế nó khá nhỏ rong. Nhỏ chia lì đê, hú lì chú, và lì xuống đá, chống lì xuống mù. Ủa chô, ý dê chồng cử ti nên cha, Hmong họ là Crosse nó. Nên chỉ kia lì, nên chỉnh sái cú trâu lũ xả sáng, chờ cú tô hải lũ trâu nê cho tún chải lò. Chẳng gà sợ đờ lũ chia bế châu nó. Khó tư cú hai tô rong, lò nê hỏi khờ mù xí. Khó tư cú hai chỉ tô rong, lò chiên đô lũ xong lò mù. Cú và thiết thiết xía hai tìa, bế sợ đờ chỗ mô kế, xí châu rong. Xí bá xí chớ mù lời là tổng tê nó. Ô chung đồng đầu trò lũ gồng hồng hồng, thiết lũ dây rau hồ lò Crosse nó. Thank you so very much to the Crosse Hmong Cultural and Community Center for inviting me to join you all in this year's Hmong New Year celebration. Happy Hmong New Year! Nhớ rằng trong chia đó đi sẽ là trong Crosse.